So
Are we rolling?
we're rolling.
Oh, geez. Hey, everybody. Back again. Embrace the Storm podcast. Number 5. Here with my charming co-host, Jeremy Weins. And we're rocking some nice mugs. Embrace the Storm logo. And we're here to talk to you about New Year's.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah. Wrong podcast.
I didn't prep for that one.
Yeah, wrong podcast. Before we dive into that, though, how was your week?
Week was an interesting one. Busy, but tired through it all.
Yeah.
Just it seemed like a bit of a fight to get through this one. I'm still waking up early, still doing everything, but like
I saw you at the gym this week.
yeah, I think it was yesterday. It was like I got to bed. I was like, whatever else. I look at the time. It's like 9:45. I was like, that has never happened, right? So like, sweet, I'm gonna get a good sleep, and I went to bed right away. And all of a sudden, next thing I know, I'm waking up. My alarm's not even going off for another half hour. I was like, oh, went to bed early, but still wake up.
Yeah.
So that didn't help. I didn't get to sleep anymore, but it just was.
Yeah. The other night I woke up at 2:20 because I had to blow my nose or pee or something like that. And I'm lying in bed and I'm just like awake. And for a brief moment, your brain goes, do I get up at 2:20 in the morning and start my day? But no, I went back to sleep. Only for a few hours. Like I still get up early, but like yeah, I'm not getting up at 2:20. That's a little bit much. But yeah, we were talking before we started recording. It's been a little bit weird because there's been some colds and flus going around, and so maybe that's why you're a little bit tired, and my voice is a little bit weird because of that. But yeah, I guess just time of year too, like changing of weather, and it's almost Christmas for goodness sakes.
Well, I think prepping for Christmas, and then you're also in the midst of you still have to work, still have to do all your other things.
I wonder too, some of that stress of Christmas, of like family gatherings, the extra money you're putting out for gifts and different things that go on at Christmas, all that, like it adds that extra stress to the day too. That probably doesn't help your immune system.
It does. Well, it's more to think about. Like, oh, did I get this gift? Do I have to be at this Christmas party? What time was it? Was it 5? Was it 6? Like, oh,
yeah.
Then yet kids still have all their activities and they're still carrying on.
And you're still trying to keep your day job down and
exactly
do your thing. Yeah. No, I agree. But yeah, it's been a busy week for me. Just we wrapped up year end at work finally. And we're just kind of wrapping up the year, making sure we have all our ducks in a row as we move to January with some exciting things coming up where I work. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that all plays out. But as we roll into that, today, the title of this podcast is New Year's Can't Wait.
Love it. And
so when we were talking the other day about what we were going to talk about, you're like, well, why don't we do a year-end wrap? And I thought that was perfect because I've been kind of thinking about, we should do some sort of take action type show. And so I think that that's perfect. And so what I wanted to talk about is New Year's Can't Wait and why you need to take action now. And what's funny about that is our very first episode of this podcast was simply pick something.
Yep.
Pick something and do it. And so I think that that's a perfect way to end 2023 as we go into 2024, which, by the way, holy crap. 2024 already. I don't know where this year went.
Right? it seemed to go really fast somewhere. Like it's looking back, like for myself personally, a lot of change, a lot of things have happened.
Let's talk about that. There's your dog.
There's my dogs. My apologies.
That's all good. Good. I don't think she and I are ever going to be friends, by the way.
Well, you know what? It takes some time. Maybe we'll have to actually spend some time and
we might have to
just do it that way.
Not on the podcast.
Yeah.
But let's talk about that though. I want to talk to you as we roll up this year, go into next year. This year has flown by. We were both in agreement on that.
Yeah.
How has this year gone for you? Did you hit your goals? Did you get to where you want? Are we rolling into 2024 feeling like you accomplished some stuff?
So yes and no. It's a kind of an interesting way. When I look back, I could see all the things that happened. So 2023, I usually try to have a word for the year, right?
Yeah, that's super funny. Me too. I didn't know that.
Okay, yeah. So last year, my word was growth, right? Unbeknownst to me what that would look like, I didn't
Right.
I didn't know, right?
Was your sorry to interrupt, but maybe we'll call this podcast Interrupting Cal. But was your word growth because you wanted to grow, or you had something specific in mind at the time?
Okay, so when I don't how do I, it is kind of weird. It might sound a little bit weird and mystical or whatever, but I when I pick a word, I spend some time and just like whether it's praying a bit of it, some of it is just like vision casting. Where do I want to be? What if
Yeah.
like right
Oh,
and ideas
yeah.
of where I want to be, and then it's okay. So if I want to be there,
Yeah.
and I want to do this, I want to like and just like okay, like bring something that kind of encompasses all that together, right? And for me, the word that came up last year was growth.
Okay.
And
Love it.
that was something that, so when I had that growth picture in mind, what happened was not at all what I expected to happen. So,
Right. You're not flying private yet. You're not.
well, no, I'm not there yet. So,
Kidding.
yeah, but, but even with my plan for the whole year,
Yep.
everything shifted from what I expected or thought.
Are you able to share that on the podcast
Absolutely,
a little bit about where you thought you were gonna go, and
Right.
then kind of where it ended?
So when I started the year, my big first change, because I went through a couple big changes.
Yeah.
The biggest one was I sold my house.
Right.
I sold my house in when was it? In when I sold my house, it was in the end of mid January.
Was it that early in the year?
Well, I moved in February.
Okay.
So, but having said that, coming to January, I had no intentions of selling my house. I wasn't.
Right.
Even, I wanted to get I wanted to get some things. I wanted to check on some things and do a little bit of homework. And all of a sudden, some things just played out, and I
Yeah.
just had an opportunity, and I was like done, right? And I sold my house. So, kind of, it was within a month. I decided to sell my house,
Yep.
find another place to live,
Yep.
and move. So I've lived at that house for like almost 15 years.
Yep.
And it was I needed change, I needed to grow, I needed
Yes.
growth, right? And
I
that
remember.
wasn't,
I remember.
and it was like okay, well this is happening,
Yeah.
and it was like it happened so fast, like it was 3 weeks from when we signed the papers to when I was in the next place,
Yes.
and it happened about a week and a half before that where I decided to do it, and
Yeah.
it was like crazy, and so that was a big change for me.
Yes.
So that was exhausting. So you do that with also. I just was on council. I got on council in October, the year before
Okay.
2022.
Yeah.
So only for a month. Oh, well, 2 months, right? Because we have November, December.
Yeah.
Don't really do much. So I'm pretty much brand new to council as well. Then I sell my house. So those are two major things.
New things in life. Yeah.
Right. And then come April, I switched companies with who I work for, right? And so that's another big shift. And
So within 6 months, your entire life changed.
right. And so switching companies was something I had planned.
Right.
So that was going to happen.
Yep.
The company I switched to is not who I planned.
Right. I remember.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
I was going to go somewhere else. And then it's one of those things where I kept getting, I listened to somebody who said, give them a shot, give them a shot.
Yeah.
Right. So I was like, okay, well, I'll do it. Right.
Yeah.
And I went in there just with okay, let's just be open and see what happens.
Yeah.
And it's like, as soon as I was there, it's like, bang, I knew instantly, right? This is where we're going. So,
And even I was a little bit hesitant when you were telling me about it. I remember
yeah,
being like, the opportunity was big with the other company,
yeah,
but your learning opportunity was much larger with where you are now, and that ultimately was the clincher for you excuse me, for sure. But I think the cool thing about that is, well, two things that came out when you were telling that is, man plans and God laughs,
yeah,
and also how quickly things can change. Within the matter of 6 months, your entire life got flipped upside down in a good way.
yeah,
And started, like we always talk about, made room.
yep,
The changes in your life made room, or were the catalyst for moving forward where you are now, where you live physically,
yeah,
the company you're with, the trajectory you're on with that company. Like, None of that would have been possible had you not made these moves.
Right. Like there's so many things that shifted, that changed that I wasn't expecting. And so that brings us up to it was the end of April when I switched companies, I think April 28th or something like that.
Okay.
And so
So hold on. May, June, July, August, September, October, November. So 7, 8 months ish.
yep.
Okay.
So to say not a lot has changed since then.
Right.
But I think there's quite a bit like okay, switching companies now it takes a little bit, and because of where I moved from, they shut down everything, and I lost a lot of information. I lost
Right.
some stuff, and so that kind of that
You started not from scratch.
not from
but
scratch. I have experience, so that
Yeah.
comes in. But I started off with I lost a lot of my clients. I lost not clients, but like that I didn't have like if I didn't have
You
them.
didn't have a funnel built up when
Yeah.
you moved
Yeah, exactly.
because
right.
you lost
So,
all that data.
yeah, so
Yeah.
that was all gone, and you know that's it sucked, but that's okay. You know what I need to and the good thing about that is actually is now I'm learning to build systems, right, and put
Yes.
that in place. So I'm
Go
starting.
listen to podcast number 4,
Yeah.
one right before this, where we talk about systems.
Yeah. So I'm starting to have that in place, right?
Yeah.
And that's the growth thing is that's something I really wanted.
Yep.
The vision for doing a podcast, that's another thing that we
Yes.
talked about, but now we're
Yes.
actually doing, right?
I thought about that when I was thinking about this topic.
Yeah.
Well
Well,
done.
that's a big thing, right?
Yeah.
And and also just all my video setup and everything is like, oh, you know what? This is actually and just planning and putting those systems in place. And now I kind of have a plan
Yeah.
for next year how it's going to look for doing a lot of my marketing and stuff
For your own
for
content.
yeah, for my own personal stuff. But because I have all this stuff in place, because
Well,
of
we
this,
get to do this.
well, and because because of this podcast, now I went and bought different things like the green screen, and I bought things that that can accelerate, make it a little bit more like
I am
better,
very
right?
grateful. I was telling somebody this the other day. I am grateful that I have a partner in all of this that is passionate about the mic and the cameras and lighting and the green screen because like I love the podcast.
Yeah,
I love information sharing,
yeah,
but none of this stuff I find interesting or sexy the same way you do.
yeah.
And so when you were like, "Oh, I did this and I did," I'm super fired up about it because I'm like, "Dang, now I don't have to figure it out." You know, because if it was up to me, we'd probably just be using our phones. And
Yeah.
well,
Well,
from there, you know,
I think every time you come here, something's different. So
every time, every time,
So I'm working on
perfecting
it, right?
Yeah.
And like making space, like cleaning out
Yes.
my office, getting it out of my room.
So
and
we're gonna rabbit trail for a
you
second
bet,
because that's now come up a couple of times.
you bet.
So this is something. Honestly, it's woven into the fabric of our friendship, as woo woo as that sounds. So when we met, I was knee deep in studying Bob Proctor, and Bob Proctor tells many stories. I don't care if you like him, don't like him, roast me in the comments. I don't really care. But he tells many stories about how you can't get things in life, you can't get to the next phase, you can't get the next sweater even
Yeah,
if you don't get rid of the old one first, because you have to make space for the new thing to come into your life. And so that became sort of a theme as we were becoming friends. And when you were thinking about selling your house, I remember saying to you, well, maybe you need to sell because maybe you need to make space,
yeah,
right? And so I think as we look at this idea that New Year's can't wait, take stock right now, guys, of what you have going on in life. Is there something you need to make space for? Is there people, clothes? You know, maybe the clothes you're wearing aren't serving who you want to become. Maybe the job you have isn't serving who you want to become. Maybe you have your own business, but you need to go get a job. Or maybe you have a job, but you need to start your own business, side hustle, something. Like, what do you need to make space for? Think about that. So now that commercial break is done, I want to come back to you. So now, all these things happen to you within a 6-month period. You start with your new company in April. It takes a couple months to get you up and running. But here we are, middle of December. rolling into Christmas real fast. 2024 is right around the corner. Did you grow?
Did I grow? Absolutely. Like that's the. I think I grew in a different way than I was expecting. Like I didn't hit. Actually, I haven't even done the numbers, but I'm pretty sure I didn't hit my target of where I want to be financially.
Okay.
But
You had a pretty lofty goal, which
yeah,
10x tells you
dude,
better
yeah,
to go there, right?
yeah. So I did hit that goal, and that's and kind of when I sold my house and with counsel, I kind of realized probably bit off more than I could chew to hit that goal, right? Because that was going to be it was a little bit more of a distraction from my business than I expected.
Yes.
So that was a learning opportunity for me as well, right? Now I feel much more secure. It's like, okay, now I know what I'm doing. It was so much learning that I wasn't prepared for.
Yeah.
But now, not that I've figured it all out, but I'm a lot further than I was, right? So,
Yeah.
so moving ahead, it's like, okay, now I'm ready to go in a lot smoother, right?
Absolutely. So now that you're at the end of the year, you feel like you've grown. You didn't necessarily hit your financial numbers for the year, although the year's still young. We still have time.
I
Uh,
have a number of things on the go that if they all lined up and if they
yeah.
actually fall in place, I could still hit my goal.
Well, there we go,
And like we
guys.
have like 2 weeks left, so I'm really pushing.
Yeah,
Like and you heard
got
my
time.
phone call this morning, or went this morning when you got here.
When I got here.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're rocking it,
like
man.
that was the point. That was one thing to try to get me to
So
that goal, right?
you're gonna take it right to the end zone, right to the last minute here.
Yeah, you bet.
That's really good, man. I think it helps to reflect,
Yeah,
right? And I like the word of the year, the phrase of the year. I remember who I learned it from. I think it was Ed Milet. Ed Milet gives himself a word or a phrase of the year, and that's who I took it from. But I think if you're gonna do that, you need to sit December ish
yeah.
and reflect, well, how did that shape my year? You know?
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, did you come back to that? Do you come back to that word often?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like so as I'm going through these transition periods and such, that's something is like that I keep coming back to. Is that included? Is my growth happening, right? Is
Right.
my word of the year, is that part of it? Like, is it like
Yep.
like a couple of years ago it was transformation, right?
Yep.
And transforming into something different, into like and becoming better, right? So that was something. Does that help me, right? Now growth, is this helping me grow?
Yep.
Well, switching to cold wall was something that I think, is this going to help me grow? And absolutely, like,
And it has.
who do you surround yourself with, right? And
Yes.
that's a big thing. And when you talk about that in the office, the people there, they're just amazing to work with. Like they're a blessing, right? Because they encourage you, they keep you going, and they produce. Like they're like a great office to be around. They are like,
It's got good energy. It's got a
yeah,
good
they're
vibe.
they're
Yeah.
just, they go after goals. They go after it, right? They set
Yeah.
it, and they go hard, right? And they're amazing for that. So, and like not just little goals, like they go big, right? And
Yeah.
so
They push you to be
yeah.
better.
Oh, when you're in meetings, you hear like, oh, I sold this, I sold this. Like everybody's talking to you, like, I didn't do nothing. You're like, oh man, like no, how
And
do
even
I?
if you did lots,
Yeah,
it's nothing in comparison.
right. Well, and
Yeah.
then you're like, okay, how do I push myself to be better? How do
Yeah.
I make sure that I say that I did? Like, I got to push because I want to say something too. I don't want to just sit there, right? So,
Yeah.
so that's something that motivates me to push even more so, right? So,
Yeah. No, I love that. So for me this year, my phrase was selfish confidence.
okay,
And so I chose that because I I stumbled across or whatever, however you want to talk about it, this idea that it's okay to be selfish, which I know flies in the face of a lot of people out there. But the idea of being selfish isn't what you think. It doesn't mean sitting at home doing your own thing forever. Being selfish means figuring out what your goals are and putting the time in and not worrying about the social engagements, not worrying about missing barbecues and all those sorts of things, whatever, right?
right,
And so that was my word for the year, especially because I had my own business at the start of the year.
right.
Did I? No, I
No,
was
no,
already
you,
working.
yeah,
No,
yeah,
I was already working. Sorry, but the idea was that I was always so worried about helping other people that I didn't focus on myself. and not in like a woo woo kind of way, but just in like a where am I going? What are my goals? I was so busy helping Jeremy with his goals and Bob with his goals
Right.
that I wasn't focusing on my own.
Yeah.
So I needed to take some time to work on my confidence. That's why selfish confidence, to work on my own confidence building, and then also get a little selfish on my goals.
Right.
And so, honestly, with the way the last year and a half have gone in my life, I didn't actually have goals this year, which is a weird thing for me.
No kidding. Eh?
Because normally I do. I have goals, and this time of year I kind of sit down and I go through, how I was doing, all that.
Right.
But this year I didn't, because I didn't know where life was going or what the journey was going to be. And so my goal was simply to do the best I could for my employer this year, do the best I could for my family. And in some of those family buckets I'm winning, and some I'm losing. Not losing, but not doing as well as I could be. And with work, I absolutely did fantastic this year.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's when you bring value to others, it's awesome what you can accomplish.
Right.
Like I started, I'm not going to talk numbers because I don't know if they'd like me to, but I started at a very low wage. I've gotten a few bumps this past year. Not because I've been there a while, not because I passed probation, but because I brought tremendous value to the organization.
Right.
And that I'm super proud about. And Valina and I, we've worked on our relationship a ton this year. And so I feel at the end of the year, although I didn't have defined goals like I normally do, I feel like, we've moved the bar forward. And I'm grateful for that, and I'm pumped about that. But now as we roll into the end of December here, I'm revamping my goals.
Okay.
Thinking about where I want to be in the new year. And this idea that New Year's can't wait has come up a ton in my life in the last couple of weeks. And so I joined. Do you know who Cole De Silva is?
Yeah, I know the name. He goes by something else too, doesn't he? Or what's his nickname or
his thing is the Wolf.
That's what it is. Yeah.
So I joined Cole De Silva's Wolf Den.
Okay.
Wolves Den, which is, he just released his own fitness nutrition training program.
Okay.
And so I joined that 2 weeks ago, and I'm just diving in this week pretty heavy, because what I realized for myself was, if New Year's can't wait, I didn't want to do it on my own. I wanted a coach.
Right.
Also, guys, if you hire a coach, your coaches should have coaches. So I dove into that. I'm redefining my study list, my reading list, and trying to figure out what I want 2024 to look like. That's what I'm working on right now.
Right.
Because I don't want to go, it's January 3rd, January 2nd. I should probably figure out
Right.
where I want to go. No, I want to have a head start moving into the year.
You want to launch from.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of the point of this podcast, guys.
Yeah.
Is 15 days, 10 days? 10 days till Christmas, 15 or 18 to the end of the year. And if my math sucks, don't hate on me. But why are you waiting? And everybody talks about, January 2nd, they'll start hitting the gym or
Right.
whatever it is. Screw all that. If you want to start the gym, go for a walk around the block.
Yep.
You want to start the gym, do some burpees, do some push-ups. Can't do those, do them from your knees. You can't do those, you do them from the wall. Like, start where you are with what you got.
Yep.
Today, tomorrow morning. Why are we waiting?
I think it's easy to say, I'll do it Monday, right? Like that's kind of a.
Yeah.
And then we Garfield it as I hate Mondays, right? So
Yep.
then it's like, Tuesday. I should have done it Monday and next week, right? It gets pushed off, right? And
After the holidays.
After the holidays.
When things cool down.
Yeah. It's so busy now. I can't do it now because after the holidays.
And we do that with everything.
Absolutely.
Right? Whether it's weight loss, whether it's how much you drink, whether it's starting that side hustle, whether it's, I'm going to prospect, like in your line of work, right? I'm going to prospect for an extra hour a day. I'll start next week. It's almost Christmas. I'll start in January.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is, the more I dive deep, and I'd love to hear what you think on this. the more I dive into this for myself, the more I tend to agree with some of these guys that say you're wiring yourself to quit. So every time you go, I'm gonna get up at 5 o'clock tomorrow and cold plunge and go to the gym, right?
Yeah.
But you hit the snooze button, you quit. Every time you go, I'm gonna spend an hour prospecting, and you go, I just have to do these other couple of things, and you don't prospect, you quit. And before you know it, quitting leads to quitting, because everything in life is momentum.
Yeah. I'm gonna go a step further than that.
Okay.
It's not that you're just quitting. I think it's also you're lying. You're proving yourself that you're a liar, right? Like
Yes.
if you're offended by that,
Too bad.
Yeah, well, maybe it spoke to you for a reason. Is you're telling yourself, and that's kind of what I get myself, and I'm still working. I'm not arrived at this, but like this is something I'm still.
100%.
So I did, like, I'll tell you the success, and then I'll tell you where I'm working.
Please.
Okay, so success, cold plunge.
Yep.
I get up in the morning. Half of me looks forward to it.
Yeah.
Half of me dreads it. Right.
Yeah.
But I get up, my alarm goes off, and it's like, get up and go.
Yep.
Like, you told yourself you're going to do this, so all you have to do it is today. You get through today.
One more day. One more day.
Yeah, kind of the AA method, right?
Yeah.
It's just like just today. You don't have to do it tomorrow. You just have to, or you don't have to do it forever. You just have to do it one more day, right? Yeah. And so it's like, okay, all right, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. And
I did it, right? And then okay, and so and you keep that honesty with yourself, and you're like, okay, proud of myself. I didn't lie today.
Yes.
I'm good. So I can trust myself when I say things, right?
Yeah.
So
that's exactly right.
That Jordan Peterson talks a lot about that. And so is if you be honest and trust yourself, that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
So now where I'm struggling, because that's a success, and I'm pretty good at that every day. It's I get up, and now it's to the point where I'll wake up before my alarm, and I'll know when I'm getting up, and I know it's time, and I know what's happening, right? So I don't. It's not a battle of whether I'm going to do it or not. It's just like, just suck it up and do it, right?
Yeah.
So now it's going to, my struggle is calling people. In real estate, you figure we should all be easy calling to be a no-brainer, right? But it's my biggest weakness, right? So tell myself, okay, I'm going to call people. I'm going to call people. And now I still lie to myself, and this is where I need to improve, right? But I'm trying to lie to myself. So I shorten it a little bit. It's like, okay, just make like a couple phone calls. Like, just get through it. And like, let's be honest with a little bit, right? And as you're honest with a little bit, then maybe you can be honest with a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
So it's starting off with small, because I don't know why. I could talk to anybody. I can go up to a total stranger, talk to them anywhere, and I have no problem.
Yep.
Right? But to pick up the phone and call somebody, it's like, it's nerves, right? Like, and so that's something that my goal, and we'll get to this yet, is to master the phone this year.
Yeah.
I think that's going to just excel business, right? So, but that's where I'm, like I said, that's kind of where my shortcoming is, my failure in a sense is, okay, I've lied to myself a lot about that one. And so I don't want to be a liar. So how do I not be a liar?
Yeah.
Start smaller.
And it nags at you, right? Because in the back of your mind, you're like, I know I need to call. Or I know I need to fix that thing. Or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And then, but then it's like, oh, I got to work on this proposal here. This is what I got to do.
Yeah.
But no, you're just tricking yourself from the thing that's actually important, you know? So for me, I'm kind of the opposite. Is the wake up thing. And I, like, guys, for the record, I used to get up 4:30 in the morning without fail, no problem, got to my stuff, my studying, my gratitude, like journaling, working, all of it. And then I went through some mental junk, like we talked about a couple podcasts ago, and I started not getting up early. And so this last month, 3 weeks for sure, I'm like, okay, I'm getting up early. And then I would lie to myself. The alarm would go off, and I'd make an excuse. Oh, the kids were up late last night. They got up in the night. I'm not feeling totally, like, I'm not feeling it. Whatever it is, right? I'll start tomorrow. Right?
Yeah.
This last week, though, something, and this is why I did it, but joining the Wolves Den, there's, like, some things that they want to hold you to, right? Inside the group. And one of them is, he's like, just get up a half hour earlier. So I'm getting up more than a half hour earlier. But now in the back of my head, I'm like, well, someone's watching me.
Right.
They're not. But kind of. And
But
so
if
now,
they're going to ask you, you got to be honest or you got to lie. Which one do you
and
want
I'm
to
not,
do?
and I'm not gonna lie.
Right. So,
Like that's the one thing I will not do. So if I'm not getting up and you ask me, are you getting up early? I'm gonna tell you, no, I'm not. I'm being a little bee about it
yeah.
and staying in bed and hitting the snooze button. So this last week I've been getting up earlier and getting it in and doing gratitude and journaling and
yeah.
having an early cup of coffee, that kind of stuff. So I'm slowly getting back into it, and it's crazy to me because even if I don't get 50 pounds of extra muscle and the 8-pack and the whole deal, just the simple fact that I'm paying to be a part of this group, that mental shift is making me take the action.
Okay.
And so, maybe you need to pay for something.
Yeah.
To get you back into it, you paid for a trainer for a little bit.
Yeah.
It got you back into the groove.
Yeah.
And we don't need to go down that rabbit hole, but the idea, oh my goodness, sorry guys. Getting all choked up about this.
Yeah.
Stupid chest cold thing. But the idea that sometimes you need to pay.
Yeah.
You need to pay to play. You need to pay to feel that fire up under your butt. Because at the end of the day, like, you know how they say, no one can do it for you.
Yeah.
Well, they can't. But sometimes you need some motivation from external factors. And sometimes watching that money come out of your bank account is the motivation you
Is the
need.
motivation, yeah. Well, even myself, like I have somebody that I talk to probably once a month. I probably should talk a little bit more, but that more of a coach that's dealing with that, and he's there when I
Pays you
probably
go
need to,
kind of
yeah, right. And so I need to step that up a little bit more.
Yeah.
And my problem with it, I find with a lot of people is they're just like, oh, you know what to do, so you're good. Right? Well, it's not that I know what I need to do. That's not the problem. Yeah, of course I know what I need to do. I need somebody there to, like, sometimes it's that external factor of like, did you do it?
But everybody's like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you do.
Well, and for myself, I feel like I do, right? And so I messaged him this last week. I'm like, hey, I want to set my goals for 2024.
Yeah.
I have some things in mind. I want to go over it with you. Can we go?
Are you talking about business, fitness, all of it?
Everything, yeah, like all around goals. Like he does business. He does like he did the Bob Proctor. He has the certificate for doing Bob Proctor.
Oh, that's dope.
And then
offline, you have to tell me.
Yeah,
tell
and
me
then
more.
I think he has like some Tony Robbins stuff as well. Like so, he's very like he knows what he's talking about, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, so we're gonna dive into this a little bit more next week with him, and so really set those goals.
I love that.
And that's something that I like. We've talked about doing that, and now I'm like, okay, I'm not waiting until next year. We need to do this now. And so I messaged him, whatever.
New
this
Year's
week.
can't wait, guys. New
Yeah,
Year's can't wait.
Can't wait, because then you're already behind, right? Because then you're what, 3 weeks behind, 2 weeks behind if you're waiting, because nobody does it the first week, so it's the second week.
Yeah.
Well, then you got to implement it. Well, that's 3 weeks, if not 4, right?
Well, what if, and I know lots of people on the internet talk about this, at least in the circles that we watch, but what if you started something now? And I'm not saying go hardcore and get up at 3 a.m. and only eat meat for the next 6 years. Like, I'm not talking extreme. I'm just talking, you get up a little bit earlier, you do a little bit of movement, you read a little bit, make a couple extra cold calls, you do a couple extra things in your day job, whatever it looks like for you, just do a little bit more. What if you started that now?
Yeah.
Well, everybody else is turning that knob from whatever they're sitting at, call it 8, they're going to 0 for the next 2 weeks.
Yep.
What if you turn that up to a 10? Just now, as everybody's turning it to 0. So by the time January 2nd rolls around and everyone else is back at it, regular routines, you're miles ahead.
Well, and that's the thing, being real estate, that's the one thing where I hear everywhere, all like agents everywhere, like, oh, ready to shut it down for a couple weeks now.
We're just winding down the year.
Yeah, just gonna coast it out and be done. And like, excellent. I'm always like, pumped for them to do that because I'm like, good.
Yeah.
So this year especially, I'm like, excellent. I can't wait till you do that, right? Like, I'll make those calls. I'll talk to those people. I'll get in front of
Yes.
them, right? Like,
Ed Milet calls that separation season.
yeah, like that's exactly it, right? That's my goal in this
I love.
is to really push a little bit more this Christmas season, like
Yeah.
right through it, right? And just like, yeah, I'll have my days for my family and stuff, but then I'll take my days off later.
Yeah.
And when those paychecks come in, like, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so
Well,
push
that's,
it.
and that's the thing is, in any sales environment, you slow down, your pipeline dries up, and
Yeah.
you got to start all over again.
Right? Yeah.
So it's something to think about. But I think that's a good analogy for life too. Is all your momentum, like let's say, we're just gonna use diet for a second, okay?
Yep.
Because it's an easy correlation. If you have been eating awesome, you've been hitting your macros, you've been tracking your food, whatever that looks like for you. But then the holidays roll around, and you kind of give all of that progress you made the middle finger, because you're like, it's the holidays.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have 2 liters of eggnog a day, and I'm gonna have the treats and the sweets, and,
Right.
and overeat and indulge, and there's nothing wrong with that. Well, maybe the overeating part, but enjoying yourself, there's no problem with that. But that momentum goes to zero, just like your pipeline goes to zero.
Yeah.
So now January 2nd rolls around. If you're dialed in, January 2nd, you start again. Now you're starting from zero.
Yeah.
Because
And sometimes it's harder getting it going the second time, right? Or
Yeah.
the third time or the whatever. It's sometimes just like, oh, okay, we got to do this. And then you got to remind yourself just today.
I heard a great thing this morning driving to work on a podcast. So they were talking about the law of inertia, right? Once something's rolling, it keeps rolling.
Yeah.
So he was talking about procrastination. Procrastination is not your inability to finish things. It's simply your inability to start. Because once you start something, then inertia will kick in
Right.
and you'll do it, right? Going to the gym is not hard for you. Getting up to go to the gym is the difficult part.
Right.
Once you go to the gym and you lift that first weight,
You're good.
your body's like, hey, giddy up, let's hammer this out,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Whether you're lifting weights or push-ups, doesn't, whatever. But you know what I mean? And so I was thinking about this. I've actually been obsessing all day about it. Thinking about all the things in my life where I'm like, I didn't want to work out. I was procrastinating working out, specifically getting up early in the morning to work out.
Right.
No. I was procrastinating starting.
Right.
Because once I get going, I'm good. Right? And so how many of us haven't started?
Very true. Yeah.
And it goes back to what you were saying, right? Oh, I hate Mondays. Oh, I'll start tomorrow. I'll do next week. Do it after Christmas. Whatever.
Yeah.
Before you know it, it's Christmas. Before you know it, it's March. It's springtime. And then before you know it, it's summer break. All these things. Right? And then all of a sudden it's 2024, December. And we're having the same conversation.
Well,
Right?
that's how it goes, right? It's so easy to just push off.
Yeah.
But when we actually make it in our minds and we commit to it and we actually push through it,
Mm-hmm.
that's when the change happens. That's when we actually can go to the next level, right? So,
Well, and the crazy thing is, at the top of this, you were telling your story. 6 months. 6 months is like that.
absolutely.
What can change in 6 months is dramatic.
And it feels like it's been like I've lived here for a few years, although it hasn't been a year yet, right? It feels like
Yeah.
I've been here for a long time.
Because it's where you were meant to be.
Yeah, like time doesn't seem to move the same way it used to. It seems, right? Like it's
No.
funny how it feels, right?
No, but I think the thing is too is you don't start and stop. You know, someone once said, you're not where you want to be because you start and you stop.
Yeah.
You start and you stop. So you have good momentum for 6 months, and then you take 3 months off, and then you have good momentum, right? So you don't actually get anywhere because you have to completely start over again.
Yeah.
So the idea is to keep that momentum going. And so that's why I say start with what you have where you are, slowly if you need to.
Yeah.
Because then it can be sustainable and you can continue with that.
Yeah.
And so how long have we been going?
Oh, we're just around 40 minutes.
40 minutes. Okay. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what your next year looks like.
Okay.
So you already have some ideas in mind. I know you haven't like sat down and formulated them yet. You just said, you're
Yep.
meeting with the coach to do that. Love that you have a coach, by the way. We talked about on the very first podcast the 5 key health indicators for life.
Yeah.
They're sort of the 5 tenets that embrace the storm that I hold to. And so when I'm thinking through my goals, I think through those 5 areas.
Okay.
Right? You got your health, you got your relationships, you got your mental, you got your spiritual, and you got your business. Okay? Cover all the areas. And
Yep.
what I try and do is I try and set goals under each one of them.
Okay.
Right? So what do I want my health to be? Not necessarily a 6-pack or big
Right.
muscles. Could just be, I'm going to lean out because I'm going to eat better.
Right.
Or something.
Yeah.
Right? My relationship health, I want to get on a date night every couple of weeks. Right?
Right. Yeah.
All these things. So I have a formula for setting goals.
Okay.
Not what the goal is going to be. I still have to work through that and think through it and
Right.
whatever. But I have a structure. Do you have a structure when you set goals?
Not really. I just have like, okay, what is something? Where do I want to be? Like, what do I want to be? And then I think I probably don't do it as clean as you do with the goals, but I often have like, okay, so business, financial, this, mental, emotional, like where do I want to be, right? And a lot of different areas, right? And then, okay, how do I accomplish those? What does that look like, right?
Yes.
And go from there, right? So
no, and I wanted to ask you that because I kind of thought that was going to be your answer.
yeah.
And no, but I think it's important because people are going to sit there and go, well, how do I set goals? It's not so much about how, it's the fact that you do.
Yeah.
Because that, for me, that means one big thing. I was going to say 2, but one big thing. You took the time to think about it. You took the time to think about, and this is exactly how you set goals. Think about where you are. Think about where you want to go. And then to figure out what the goal is, figure out who you have to become to be the person that deserves those goals.
Right.
Because who you are right now, who I am right now, doesn't deserve 2024 end of year goals.
Right.
Because I'm not that person. Right?
Yeah.
So that's how I think about setting goals is who are you and where are you? Where do you want to go at the end of the year? And then who do you have to become to be the person that deserves those goals?
Well, that also goes into Jordan Peterson talks about how does he word it? He just give me a second. Just he talks about like envision the person you want to become.
Yep.
Okay. What does that person have? What does that person look like? What do they do? What are they like? Right. And now, how do you become that person? I'm pretty sure that Jordan Peterson talks a bit about that. There's other people that do as well. But having that vision of this is this is your ideal person, right? Okay. So if that's your ideal person, how are you that? What do they have that you don't? Well, what are they doing that you're not? And what are they not doing that you are? So, okay, well, that by looking at that could help you separate. Well, okay, well, I'm doing this, this, and this. They're not doing that, but they are doing this, 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 and I'm not doing that. So how do I change that, right? And so,
and common sense applies here, right?
100%.
Like guys, if this person lives in a certain house, and they live in that certain house because they do a certain thing for a job, it's not saying you have to go do that thing for a job.
Right.
Right? But guess what? They got that job by being disciplined and doing some things. I promise.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you're aspiring to live somewhere specifically.
Right. Yeah.
Right? But so 2 things I want to say on that because I think that's great. So I learned this, who do I have to become, from Sean Whalen. And I think I talked about this already. But he was walking with a friend one day and they were looking at this mansion and they were kind of talking, like, I wonder who this guy is. And then it kind of clicked for Sean of like, oh, who do I have to become to live there? So what does that guy eat? What does he drive? How does he sleep?
Right.
Like what's his routine? All these things. So who do you have to become? Right? The other thing is, if what Jeremy was saying was resonating with you while you're listening or watching, is you can Google not Google, YouTube search Ryan Stewman and what is it? The Perfect Self exercise or something like that. So he does this thing, and I read it in his book. But essentially, what you do is you stand up, take a few deep breaths, close your eyes, and you envision your perfect self. What are you wearing? Is your hair done? Are you wearing a hat? Are you wearing dress shoes? Are you wearing a tie? Are you wearing a flannel? What are you wearing? How's your body? Do you have big muscles? Do you have a six-pack? All the things physically.
Right.
And then once you've done that, you picture that person, that perfect version of yourself, standing next to you. And then what he does is he gets you to take a step to your left. So you step into that person.
Okay.
And the exercise allows you to feel the physicality of who you need to become, or who you want to become.
Right.
Right? And it becomes emotional because now you could feel it. I read in his book, The G Code. I did the exercise standing on my deck one day in the summer. I thought it was tremendous.
Interesting. I'll have to check that out.
I can lend you the book. I have a copy. And it's on YouTube. I'm sure you can YouTube it. But I'm not where I want to be yet. But I refuse to stay where I am.
Right.
I refuse to be the same. You know, Felita and I, my wife, we were talking about how many years in a row did I go, this is going to be our year, babe. We're going to do it. Things are going to be different.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the year, they weren't.
Right.
They were in the same spot, same crappy pay, doing the same things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But then every January we roll around, hey, babe, this is going to be your year. We're going to do it, right? And it just got a little ridiculous. And as I dove into it, part of it was I wasn't planning for the future. I wasn't setting goals. And once I figured out what those goals wanted to be, I didn't do anything to become that person.
Right.
I just expected to stay the same, but get different results.
Right.
Well, that's ridiculous.
I totally get that. I think that's often an easy thing to fall into. Is like, okay, well, we set our goals, and I went so far as to, this is the goal.
Yep.
This is the steps I have to do.
Yep.
This is what I have to do monthly, weekly, daily.
Love
and I
it.
broke it all down.
You backed into it.
Right, and I did.
Yep.
And then I didn't do anything with it.
Yep.
Right, but I had the system of how to get there. Like, I spent time with this, right, and I did this. Like, it's like, well, great. Like, I had it all figured out. When did I do it?
Did you get complacent?
Oh, completely, right?
Yeah.
But like, this wasn't last year. Like this last
No,
year.
no.
This was in the past, right?
Yeah.
Like, this last year was definitely a year of growth. But in the past, it was like, oh, well, good. And I look back and they're like, man, if I would have followed this, like, that would have been a game changer. Yeah. And I know it, but I didn't. So
yeah. And so guys, we're giving you all the steps here. So I just want to recap a little bit.
Yeah.
Spend some time and figure out what your word for the 2024
do you
is
know
going
what
to be.
your word is for the next year?
I don't yet.
Okay.
I don't yet. I plan to do that. I usually do that over break.
Okay.
Because then my brain has some time to chill and,
yeah,
you know, I could spend time journaling and reading and all these things, praying. I don't yet. Do you?
Yeah.
What is it? Are we going to share it in January? Let's share it in January.
All right. Well,
let's share it in January.
Well,
do you want to share it now?
Well, I don't know. You talked about taking that, doing it. Well, wait.
What? Yeah.
No, we can wait. We can wait.
New Year's can't wait.
New Year's can't wait.
You know, I wonder. My phrase might be New Year's can't wait. Just this idea that like, the time is now kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know? No, I don't have my word yet. I usually do that the last week of December, over Christmas. It's kind of when I do that.
Yeah.
But guys, spend some time figuring out what your word or phrase for the year is.
And it should inspire you and motivate you. Like, and it should make you want to go to that next level.
It should also be something that's short, easy to remember, and you should visit it often.
Yeah.
The next thing is set goals.
Set goals.
So the way I laid it out, and if you disagree, I mean, jump in here. But figure out where you want to be at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Figure out who you want to be at the end of the year. What do you want to be? All these things. Think about who you are, where you are right now. Now think about who you have to become, the steps you have to take, the things you have to do, right? Is that starting a side hustle? Is it eating better? Is it getting to the gym? Is it all of these things? And then write that down.
Yeah.
Physically, in a notebook, write that stuff down. Because if you just like sit and think about it one time, it's not going to stick. It's not going to stay. You're not going to think about it again, especially as we go into the holidays.
Yeah. So do not, when doing this, and this is something I'm really starting to figure out or learn, or that
Yes.
I really realized the last few weeks, is I'm a guy who loves self-reflection and figure out, okay, this is what I've done. Okay, now going forward, this is what I'm going to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I realized, and this is out of this is where kind of my word came out.
Yeah.
Is when we sit and reflect,
Yeah.
we're looking back, and when you're looking back, you're driving a car, you're looking back, where are you going? You don't know, right? And so we spend too much time doing that. The review mirror is there to take a glance at.
Yeah.
It's not there to stare at. So glance and go, and don't get caught up. And I realize I've often been caught up too much in looking back.
Yeah.
And it's my intention was good,
Yes.
but it freezes you. And then also you're like you look ahead and you're like, oh, I missed my goal, because how did I end up over here? Because I was looking like,
This guy.
right, and you're just kind of all over it, and you're
Yeah.
like, wait a second. So I think focus more on who you want to be and have that vision in mind, and really dial into that. And like, this is something, like I said, I've only kind of come to in the last couple of weeks, but
Yes.
I've heard it lots, but also it's sinking in, right? And so have that vision, and just really focus on that far more than you ever look.
100%. 100%. You simply need to take stock of who you are and where you are right now.
Yeah.
You don't need to sit and wallow in it or spend time there. But I say figure out who you are right now a little bit.
Right, absolutely.
Take stock. Reason being is there might be skills you need to do. There might be some, physical training you need to hire, or nutritionist you need to hire. Like, there are some things, some knowledge gaps that you may have to shore up there.
Yeah.
Right? That's why I say that. Not because I think you should spend time there.
Right.
I 100% agree with that. Once you've set your goals, you've written them down, you've figured it out, then what we want to do is, and I keep looking here, but I didn't write this part down. But once you've written it down, go do something tomorrow.
Right.
Right? Again,
Not Monday.
Not Monday, not January 2nd, tomorrow. Look at your goals and go, well, if my goal is to get more physically active, tomorrow, what can you do? Can you go for a walk around the block? Can you go skating? Can you? I don't think any rinks are open yet.
Not yet.
But it's kind of warm out here anyway. But what can you do? Right? If it's starting a side hustle, what's one action you can take tomorrow that's actually going to move the needle forward? That's what I want you to do. And then continue to visit those goals, that word for the year.
Yeah.
Daily, weekly, monthly, to make sure you're on track. Hold on. I think we should cover that in a different podcast.
Okay.
Is the idea? No. Like, say what you're gonna say, but the idea of checking in with yourself.
Absolutely. I was gonna say, if you want to go a step further,
Yeah.
find out, get images, like pictures, do
Yes.
the vision board, right?
Vision board. Yes.
Right.
Good.
Like get a picture of who it is.
I'm really bad at that.
Me too.
Yeah.
Like I had one last year.
Yeah.
I never looked at it really. So, and I also, with moving, I had it at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Then I moved in February, and
Yeah.
it got put away in a box somewhere, and I also came across it like last week. I was like, oh, that's where it is. Okay. And it was just a piece of paper, so it wasn't a big thing, but maybe it's better to have something bigger for that reason. But
What do you think this idea? I don't know how much time we have left.
about 2 minutes.
2 minutes and we're dead?
Maybe 4 minutes if we push it.
So I'm gonna say this real quick. Get your thoughts real quick. Then I want to read something to close this out. What's your take on this idea of negative vision boards? So recently I saw this gentleman. He put his chubby self on his phone background, like on his wallpaper, with his goals going forward, the weight he's gonna lose, the business that he's working on, all these things. So every time he looks at his phone, it's a reminder of who he no longer wants to be.
You know what? I I think that's
I've
looking
ne-
back too much.
I've never seen it before. And
Yeah,
so I thought it was an interesting take.
I guess for me, I think I'd much rather see a vision of who I want to be,
Or
because
where you want to be.
yeah, like
Yeah.
not looking back, just that doesn't appeal to me.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. I still am formulating my thoughts. But I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, this is the first hearing about it, and for me, it just didn't sit right, right? Like
Yeah, your first take is no.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just
I kind of think I agree, but I'm still noodling on it a little bit. So I want to read this as we close out here, guys. I have to give him a shout out because I promised him I would. He's a good dude. I just met him in a Facebook group I'm a part of. His name is Brock Frisk, and he's a lean body coach. He's an online fitness coach. Check him out at Coach Frisk, Friske, Coach Frisk on Instagram. And he recently wrote this post, and I wanted to share it with y'all because I thought that as we were talking about New Year Can't Wait, it was perfect. So here it is, and I'm reading directly from my phone so I don't get it wrong. It's when you neglect and abandon yourself that things go sideways. How can you be the whole and effective when your body is full of junk? When your mind is only being entertained and not trained? And when your energy is unchecked and completely not grounded? You don't charge your battery and expect it to just be able to operate fine forever with no issue. So what's the worst that can happen by taking those first steps of change? Slow and steady and play the long game. Keep taking the next steps, but be in the flow state. Do your best every day in preparation for the proverbial curveball, and I'm ad-libbing this part, but the proverbial curveball that life's going to throw you. Think better, eat better, interact better, have solid boundaries with self and others. Forever be improving on who you were yesterday. That's from Coach Frisk on Instagram. As we round up this podcast,
yeah.
be better than who you were today, tomorrow. Set some goals, and do not wait for the new year.
Crush it down.
See you guys.